It is HPR, All Things Considered. I'm Dave Lawrence. Today, a legendary, pioneering artist is joining us, Sergio Mendes, playing the Blue Note Friday and Saturday, November 16th and 17th, 6:30 and 9 o'clock shows each night, and we are so lucky to get a chance to speak with him right now. Aloha, Sergio. Welcome. Thanks for doing this, man.
Aloha, my pleasure talking to you. Looking forward to
it's going to be
Hawaii.
so cool having you back in. And before we hear about some of the cool gigs dug up from your past that I've got here, give us some idea of the shows that you're going to be doing here at the Blue Note, who's going to be with you, anything else about the performances you'd like to share.
Well, I call it the musical journey. We're going to be playing songs from, the Bossa Nova days, songs from Brazil 66, songs that I did on the more recent albums like Timeless with will.i.am and the Black Eyed Peas. We are 10 people on stage, and that's what's going to be a party.
Party, we like that. Well, certainly the Blue Note's a great venue, too. It's an intimate sort of place and a bit different than some of the ones. And this is not sent to me as a complete list, but I have this guy, Steve, the mystery emailer, and whenever anybody's coming to town, Sergio, he kind of just sends some cool historic stuff, like, for example, March 23rd and 24th, 1968, Sergio Mendes and Brazil 66, who were making their Hawaii debut, performed for 2 sold-out nights at the Blaisdell Concert Hall. One of the lead singers in his band was Lonnie Hall, now Mrs. Herb Alpert. Opening act, the former Kingston Trio member John Stewart and his singing partner Buffy Ford. Ticket prices, can you believe this? You can't even get parking for this anymore. Ticket prices were $5, $4, and $3.
Well, that's why I'm still broke.
do you remember that at all?
I don't remember the ticket price, but that's interesting.
Isn't that neat? I love how he pulls this stuff.
It's great.
Sometimes people can remember. Here's another one that you did, and that's the only other one that I got. Again, it's not like a complete list, just a couple of neat chestnuts. August 3rd, 1969, Sergio Mendes and Brazil 66 returned to Hawaii, this time a sold-out crowd at the Blaisdell Arena. And also on that night were a South American group named Bossa Rio and a comedian named Don Sherman. Ticket prices went up a little. Would you look at this? $5.75, $4.75, $3.75, but they were still getting folks in at $2.75.
Oh, that's great. I love that. That's wonderful.
It's crazy how things used to be. And that takes us back to you. You're growing up in Brazil. Obviously, prices probably a little more in line with those prices back then. I understand that your pop was a physician, but dial in. What I don't understand is when and how music became such a force in your life that you went to enter a local music conservatory to become a classical pianist.
Right. I was 7 years old. And so I went to learn the piano, which my mom wants me to learn the piano. And I really enjoyed, learning classical music and practicing and playing. And so that was the beginning. And then after that, when I started listening to jazz pianists like Art Tatum and Thelonious Monk and Horace Silver, so that changed my mind. And I said, wow, I would like to. I started listening to that kind of music. And then Bossa Nova started in Brazil, late 50s, and I was playing in clubs in Rio de Janeiro, and, I was part of that movement. Antonio Carlos Jobim being the most important of all of them, and our greatest songwriter. And then in 62, there was a Bossa Nova concert at Carnegie Hall. That's first time I came to the United States. And we played there with Jobim and João Gilberto, Stan Getz, Dizzy Gillespie. And so that was my first time here. Then I went back to Brazil and came back here to L.A. in 1965. And then we started auditioning for record companies and met Herb Alpert and Jerry Moss, A&M. They were just starting the company, and they signed me to A&M, and that was the beginning of my career here.
It's just an incredible run of stuff. And dialing back just a little bit into some of the little chestnuts that you were going over, you were backing some U.S. jazz musicians when they would play in Brazil too, huh? That was another way that you got some great early experience.
Right, that's right. A lot of jazz guys went to Brazil. They still do, to travel, in South America, and so a lot of them stopped by this club in Rio where I was playing, and it was great to meet them. I never thought one day I would be here and having a career in the United States.
Right. Can you even believe it? That first time that you got to New York, your very first trip ever to America was going to be for a gig at Carnegie Hall.
Wasn't that amazing? Yeah, it was great. I mean, I knew about it because that was the celebration of the Bossa Nova thing. And because of that, I went to Birdland. I met Cannonball Adderley, and he invited me to make a record with him. So that was another wonderful encounter also for me.
What a way to make that. I mean, all on a first trip to the country is a little bit overwhelming to believe. And so you guys end up signed to A&M with Jerry Moss and Herb Alpert. Prior to that, though, you had worked at Atlantic with Ahmet Ertegun. Is there some experience with him that sticks out?
Oh, wonderful. Actually, it was Nesui Ertegun, his older brother. That was Nesui came to Brazil to make a record with Herbie Mann. And I met him. I was playing a little club in Rio, and he invited me to play on the album. And he said, if you ever come to New York, I want you to make records for me. And that was Atlantic. So Nesui was a dear friend and a great mentor for me, not only, music, but art. And he was an amazing, incredible music person. And I was very fortunate to have met and worked for him. So I did a few albums for Atlantic Records also.
So it was more with his brother than with Ahmet.
Yeah, with Ahmet. Of course, I knew Ahmet. Ahmet was there, but Nesui was the jazz guy. Ahmet was more of the rock and roll guy, if I can put it this way.
No, you can. I love that. It's a great way of hearing your way of differentiating the two, and that would make sense considering his legacy, for sure. You also, back then, what was kind of crazy was sometimes when I'm talking to people, they have experience of getting to play at the White House, and often it's in either the Obama era, and it can be some older bands, too. They maybe just get their chance many decades into their career to end up there with maybe the Clintons or the Obama era. But you performed at the White House, it says.
Was for Richard Nixon, was the visit of the English, the Spanish King Juan Carlos. And then I played for Reagan after that.
Okay.
Was the visit of the Brazilian president. So we played twice at the White House. I wish I had played for Obama, that I love.
Right. No, well, at least you
Maybe he'll invite me when he comes back.
But those are cool memories, huh? Getting to do something like that.
Wonderful memories, yes.
Very special stuff. You, one of the things that makes you special in talking to you, obviously that Timeless record has a lot of collaborations, but your life has had these collaborations all the way going back. As you were talking about Herb, you would collaborate with Herb. You guys were on the same tours and stuff. One of the cats I've never heard you talk about was what led to The Real Thing, Stevie Wonder's song, really beautiful.
Oh, yeah. Well, Stevie, what happened is Steve loved Brazilian music, and I got a call from him one day saying that he would like to sing in Portuguese, one of the songs that he wrote. And I wrote some Portuguese words for him, and he sang in Portuguese, of course, and we became very good friends. And then he wrote for me this song, The Real Thing. And he's one of the most amazing musicians, and I mean, I'm a huge fan. And then on the album Timeless, he came again, and he was around at the same studio, and he heard I was making a new record there, and he brought his harmonica and put a solo on one of the songs. Yeah, Steve is a genius, one of a few.
When you're doing The Real Thing, he just writes it and hands it off to you, or was he there in the studio?
No, we're in the studio together. He was playing a clavinet, and I was playing piano.
Recorded at the same time?
Recorded at the same time, and his bass player, Nathan Watts, and it was a wonderful experience. His guitarist at the time was Mike Cimbello, and so yeah, what a great days.
In that same era, when you were getting put out on the road, that was a probably some more experimental packages than today. Again, it's Sergio Mendes. He's coming on his own gig at the Blue Note Friday and Saturday, November 16th and 17th, 6:30 and 9 o'clock shows each night. But back in the old days, there were times when bands, almost like that Bill Graham spirit of putting bands that were of different kinds together. I'm curious, are there anything that sticks out in your mind like, wow, these were some strange bills I got to do with so-and-so?
That's an interesting question. We worked with, we opened the show with Brazil 60 for the Smothers Brothers. Now figure this one out, which was wonderful. So the idea of having comedians and then us as music, I think was a great thing. And even today, you go to the jazz festivals in Europe. Today they're combining, some of the more pop stuff with some, older jazz guys, and there's that combination, which is fine.
What year was the Smothers Brothers? Was that a Bill Graham thing itself, or?
No, it was not a Bill Graham thing. It was in Washington, D.C., at the Carter Barron, I would guess, 66.
Wow, that's exactly what I was talking about. Any other ones like that stick out through the years?
Not that I can think right now.
No, it's cool. Just, but you named a really good one, and that's a compelling one. I was watching you on American Bandstand. I was doing a little homework for this.
Yeah.
Wow, that's so amazing to see you standing there introducing the whole band with Dick. You have memories of doing things like that? Was that powerful to be around an entertainment mogul of that caliber? Was he a nice guy?
Oh, of course, very nice guy. Great time. Great times, yes.
Did you ever do Ed Sullivan?
Never did, no. I did all the specials that Bob Hope and did a special with Fred Astaire. We did a couple, it was very important to me. I did a couple of tours with Frank Sinatra, twice in 68 and then in the 80s again, all over Europe and the United States.
Was that something that when it got booked, were you excited? How?
Of course, yes. You kidding? Absolutely. And we're great friends, until he passed.
Had those tours been when you began your friendship?
Yes.
What a cool thing. And when you think about this Timeless record, it was collaborations with people like John Legend. You were mentioning Stevie's on there, Erykah Badu, Black Eyed Peas. Memories of putting that together that just stick out, made that record what it was, or has also the inspiration. What made you want to do that with so many of those modern hip-hop kind of guys?
It was a very organic kind of thing. I met Will, and he asked me to play a song on the Black Eyed Peas album. And it was a Brazilian song. And I said, why, we should do something together. And we became friends, and it all started like that. And he said, well, let's reinterpret some of your classics like Mashkinada and do it in a different way, And we did that 40 years later and became a hit again. And then he brought in Justin and Erykah. It was a great experience because they all love Brazilian music. And so for me, I learned a lot, and it was a wonderful experience working with them on the album Timeless.
You've had so many, what I would say are timeless sorts of experiences, too, and re-looping with friends. You produced Lonnie Hall when she did music on that James Bond Never Say Never Again, didn't you?
Right. Yes, she's great.
So that's a relationship. You stay tight with those guys?
Oh, yeah, very tight. Boy, we see each other, at least every couple of months. They live here in L.A., and I love them, and my wife too, and it's great.
As we wrap it up, final question: what's a dream collaboration? Something you haven't done that you would still,
Wow.
Because this is a guy who's worked with so many different folks. There's got to be a.
From the top of my head, if I'll say right now, I would love to do something with McCartney, with Paul.
Had you never interacted with any of the Beatles?
Although he wrote me a letter thanking for my version of Fool on the Hill, and so I would love to do something with him. He's a melody guy, and I think would be great. And right now, I'm doing a new album and a documentary that's going to come out next year, beginning of next year.
What's the documentary?
About my life, done by the same guy. His name is John Scheinfeld. He did Coltrane, he did John Lennon, so we went to Brazil, we interviewed people. He has a lot of footage from, old footage, and so we're working and a lot of interviews and like I interviewed Herb and Lonnie and Quincy and John Legend and Will, and so it's going to be a documentary about my life, my family, and a new record which I'm working right now.
Fantastic. And they'll both be out in the beginning of 2019?
I would say spring of 2019, yes.
A very busy Sergio Mendes,
Yes.
And he's joining us here. We're so privileged ahead of these shows, Friday and Saturday, November 16th and 17th.
I'm really looking forward to be there. I love Hawaii.
Well, we have there's a lot of love for you here. What's a memory that sticks out from being here in the past?
Oh, many, many times. Just the people and the beauty of the place. It's just a wonderful place to be.
Excellent. We're looking forward to you coming back. Thank
you.
Did you have fun today? Was this okay?
Yeah, it was great, man.
Awesome.
Yeah. You coming to the show?
Of course.
They give you a discount for $3 for.
They give me 1968 prices, right?
Right. Yeah. Aloha, ladies and gentlemen. This is Sergio Mendes. Please join me in supporting HPR's Pledge Drive. I'm talking to my friend David Lawrence. It's All Things Considered. And thank you for becoming a member today.
You're the man over there. I'm giving you a hug, a high five.
Okay. Big hug to you, too.
And thank you, brother. Thanks for doing this.
My pleasure.